Here's a question for you that will make you do good things in your life and make you a better person. Ask this question of yourself once a day, and it'll help you stay honest and true. If your ancestors, every single one of them, all your ancestors, lined up and looked at your whole life and the choices, the decisions you made, how would they think of your decisions? Now, they can't understand phones or computers or anything like that. So, that's a little confusing. If they knew what it was, they might approve of it. But, as far as my ancestors, a lot of them, even my father's ancestors did heroin. My father, oh yeah, his father, heroin was at the pharmacy, it was no big deal. You had a toothache, you took it. You had the flu, you took it. Heroin was everywhere from like the 1800s to the 1900s. And before that, it was everywhere in Europe. And before that, everybody knew about these flowers and growing them in the backyard. So we know opiates were a thing going back over 1,000 years. We know marijuana was a thing. We know alcohol was a thing. So as far as my decisions go, I think my ancestors would not feel too bad about me getting sober when they couldn't. And a lot of them probably used it to the day they died. It was at every pharmacy and it was at every backyard. It was just common practice. But how about my mother slipping me pills, destroying your son's body so he doesn't have a future? What would your ancestors think about that? How about taking your son's inheritance, taking his money because you got in an argument? Sons and fathers used to punch each other and beat each other in the 1800s. And I say the wrong words, and my father thinks you can just take like my house, my money, whatever was going to build me my future. That was my apartment. They were setting me up with a new apartment, and I would have been able to file for Social Security for my actual disability. Social Security would have talked to just me if my father never collected. Also, he lied to the program, lied to me, lied to Social Security, and lied to the state worker committing a crime. Okay. How about the over-medication, drugging, making up stories about your son at the doctors? You think somebody from the 1800s, 1700s, you think somebody from 1,000 years ago would think it was okay to bring your son to the doctors and then make up a story about him? Like, let's say your son was given a prize for best swordsman, and he brought it home, and then his parents were killed. And then he was brought into a new family, and he shows them this medal for a swordsman. But then the mother takes that medal, goes to the witch doctor, starts getting poisons, and pours it down his father's throat. The mother and the father end up giving this poison to their son only because he won a medal, or they start calling him not attached and start calling him names when all he's trying to do is show his accomplishments, tuck him in, give them love, and this woman's going nuts. How would your ancestors view the decisions that you made in your life and the consequences of your actions? If your ancestors could see every view of your life and talk to every person and really see the truth, if they followed you through their life and they followed the people and they got to see the damage you were doing to other people's lives and all that, what would your ancestors think of you? For me, I made mistakes in my life. They probably didn't like me during childhood, taking stuff from like a bubblegum package and taking illegal drugs that somebody brought in the house. They weren't hers to begin with, and the person is dead, so they technically belong to nobody. It's not like you can pass down Percocet to your children. That's prescription only. So, that's probably looked down on, but I might have saved lives too by blowing up her spot with those meds. Maybe she was more careful with them because who knows what could have happened. Why would you keep Percocet that belongs to another person? You either are going to sell it, take it yourself, or give it away. All three are illegal. if you're taking somebody else's Percocet and Xanax, if you're giving away prescriptions that no longer, belong to anybody who exists, if you're swallowing them yourself, no matter what you do with those prescriptions, you're breaking the law or acting like a drug addict. So what were they going to do? She's bringing them into a house, so she went from one house into another house after she's already had the situation. Well, I still say that we have two people at fault here. I'm at fault for sure. I have no right to take those. She has no right to bring them in the house. And I have every right to go in my mother's closet after she dies. Every right. I have every right to go through my mother's belongings after she dies, especially to see if she has my swimming medals or any of my belongings that own to me. Things I won in the orphanage or shit like that. Who knows how much shit she hid. I mean, it's just really bad. Really bad. I mean, my mother was just so abusive, and they act like it's no big deal. I had no idea that this was abusive because they used to act like, this was so no big deal. Oh, don't act cruel to Zachary Newell was one of the sayings. Why were they saying that? Why would they? Why would that be a saying? Why would that be one of the sayings? Why would I be at a child's age saying I have a Halloween curse where I get sick every year? Why did I get passed out, almost drunk-like, during a court proceeding for an adoption after my mother gave me meds? Why did I lose my vision, go blind, and have my whole nervous system change after my mother slipped me pills? Why? Do you think that those actions are good? Do you think my father made a good decision giving me less than what an orphan would get on his own with no parents? Do you think that damaging my body and making it so I had missing 4 years of education? Do you think the ancestors from 150 years ago, keeping your kid out of school for many, many years up in a cabin in New Mexico, is that something they would approve of, your ancestors? Or would they want your kid actually to get an education? I mean, most parents want their kid to get a decent education, not just be in a cabin in New Mexico, get homeschooled by a crazy woman, ignore that there's no classes going on when your kid comes home, where the other kids eventually, they do an investigation and they shut it down long after you're gone because your parents don't listen, and they continue to say, it's a fantasy, it's made up. So when I go home and try to tell my parents that the school, I am missing a year where we just played toys, instead they go, it's a fantasy. No, every kid played toys, and then I was able to kind of like be the head of the class by just having the best Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because that's what we did. Most of the time it was trading Yu-Gi-Oh cards and playing by my rules, because we couldn't read the cards. Almost none of us could read the cards, and the teacher wouldn't teach us. So that's real. I was there. So was every other kid in my class. But was my father there? No, he was told by me what was going on, and then he made a phone call. You think the teachers went, hey, yeah, we're scamming you. There's no classes. We set up the room downstairs like a daycare. Yeah, we're getting money and funding from the state, and we just figured we'd just hire somebody to babysit. You think that's what they're going to tell my father when there's supposed to be classes going on? Fuck no. No, they waited until they got caught, and other kids told their parents. And parents that actually gave a fuck about their kids actually spoke up. But see, my parents don't give a fuck. They'll just keep on calling me a liar and a fantasy spinner for telling the truth my whole life. All I've done is tell the truth. When my mother was lying, I said she was lying. When my mother took my medal, I said, give me back my medal, and cried. When there was no classes, there was no classes. When a black man was choking out girls in the shower, bringing us out in the middle of the night to play light tag because he wants to shoot a bear, when there's all this crazy stuff, food poisoning going on, I told my parents. What did my father do? He tried to get his money back and then decided to sacrifice more of my education so he could buy and sell houses. What would your ancestors say about those decisions? Do you think they would want their son to have a future? Do you think that they would be shaking their heads going, oh my God, oh my God, how could you do that? What do you think Jesus is thinking with your decisions? I mean, it's one thing where you can ask for forgiveness for venting and swearing, maybe even saying, I'm fucking pissed, I'm gonna break your nose. You touch me again, one more doctor malpractices me because of your fucking stories, I'm burning your fucking face off and slapping you silly. Or do you think it's worse to poison somebody, cripple them, and then cut off any medical care so they die? And they freeze to death, they starve, they have to, live outdoors the rest of their life in the woods, and they're not even allowed to use fire to keep warm. Nope, no fire to keep warm. What do you think your ancestors would think about that?